How's it going, YouTube? So what I'm going to do here is a quick how-to video on how to swap the lowrider bags on the 1970 Cadillac. So what we got here is the old Caddy hardtop sitting in the garage. Now what happened is we had a wheel alignment done on it and they set the car wrong. So basically what happened is they sucked the front end forward and now the bags are all rubbed out. So we're going to swap them with some brand new ones. So what you got to do is pull the wheel off first. So let's start with that. Let's get that off. Alright, so we've got our tire pulled. So now it depends on how your bags have been installed if you didn't do them. A lot of guys will just use bolts just because that way if you ever do run into problems it's a lot easier than having to grind welds, especially when they're up inside your frame cup where your spring should be. So mine are basically just bolted in. If you can see that bolt right there, so that holds the top cup in. So for some perspective, that's basically where that sits. So now underneath here, I don't know if you can see anything under there, but basically what we got there is a bolt. So in order to get at that, what we have to do is we got to pull this piece right here. You can leave all this stuff hooked up because basically all we need is we just need to drop this wheel. I don't usually disconnect my brake lines because then you got to bleed brakes and stuff. That's just a bit of a pain in the ass. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull that top bolt, loosen that all up, and then I'm going to pull this. Now if there's a way to mark this, you probably, I guess you might be able to, just so you don't change your camber, but usually what I do is I just bring it in and I'll get another wheel alignment once it's done anyway, just so that everything's done and legit. Just make sure that you keep an eye on the mechanics if they're not used to doing lowriders. You know, make sure that your car is set up in the right spot so that you don't have this problem, so that your bags don't rub out in the front. So, because you do need a finger width around your entire bag, because these things aren't meant to have any rubbing on them. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to air out the rest of the suspension just so that everything is down, just in case you do get a bag blow or a line falls off or whatever. Especially if you're going to be farting around underneath your car, you don't really need the car coming down on you, so safety first. So that's what we'll do next here. And then first thing we'll do here is we're going to dump the back out. Just nice and easy. So that should give me a flat skis there. No, I never use these ones. Let's see if this is, which corner this is. Okay, far corner, so that's alright. Oh, I think we're getting a bit of a three-wheel motion going on here. So, then that bag goes down, which is the one that we're working on. So you want to make sure that sucker is good and flat. Alright, so let's have a look and see how everything's set up here. So now we got everything dumped, so hopefully that should be okay. Now jack's wiggling a little bit here. Maybe slide this sucker under here a little closer just in case. That one's not really on the stand, so let's just readjust that one. Alright, so now what we got here. Smoke break. So now we got that top bolt pulled, so the bag bolts are all ready to pull out of there, and we've got this bottom nut pulled off of here. So now what I did is I just put a jack stand underneath the wheel because it's pretty heavy, so when we knock this thing loose then basically the jack will hold it so it doesn't just come dangling down everywhere. So let's give this sucker a couple of taps here. There she comes. Make sure we get all the shims out of there. There. So we'll just leave that hold like that for now. Alright, so now what we have on the bottom here is I just tack welded this cup on, if you can see that or not. See, there's just some tacks on. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get underneath here and just pull this one nut, and then what that's going to do is just release the bag from the cup. So let's do that next. Alright, so now what we got here is I just moved this piece up out of the way as we banged that out the last time. So brake line's sitting a little bit tight, but we still got the jack underneath there. So now what happened is when we pulled that bolt, now you can see that that cup let go. So the bag is just basically just laying there, loosey-goosey. Now what we got to do is we got to try and maneuver this thing around here, because inside there's a push to connect fitting. So we've got to get the airline out of the bag. So we might actually have to cut this. I remember, I think so usually you gotta twist and turn these fuckers a little bit in order to get them out. Oh, this one came out actually pretty good. So now as you see, this is the airline. Well, maybe if you can see, I don't know. So basically it's just a push to connect fitting. So you just jam the line down. Pooh-yah. There we go. Loose airline. And the bag goes rolling out onto the floor. So what we can see here now, this is a Slam Spec 7, RE7. So as you can see, this was rubbing on the front of the frame. Because like I said, when they did the alignment on it, I believe what happened is that they had the cars set up a little bit too high. So what they did is these arms here, they just tightened those right up, and it sucked this whole assembly forward. Because this has all been trimmed out. I don't know if you can see any of that. It's basically all been trimmed out so that it had the appropriate amount of clearance around the bag. Alright, so we got some new bags here. Now, what I've found is some of this stuff. Basically Loctite 545. Now this stuff is the shiznit if you're going to be working on air suspensions, because basically what happens is you put the stuff on, it stays completely wet until you take all the air away from it, basically. So once it goes inside, you pressure everything up. This stuff seals better than any kind of Teflon tape or any of that stuff. Plus Teflon tape looks like shit. So basically, if you can get yourself some of that. Now the stuff's a little bit expensive, but it's well worth it if you're going to be putting together an air suspension system, just because you're not going to have near the amount of leaks. So now what we got here, this one is an SS Slam Spec 7. It's basically the same as the RE7s, they're just a little bit cheaper. Now what we got here is we've got plastic rather than the steel, or aluminum plates that they have on the other ones. So basically when you get your new bag, you've got mounting plates on the bottom, and then this part here, this is going to cover your air hole. So you want to make sure that you don't get any debris or grit in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull this thing open here. Let's have a look at what we got. Oh yeah, don't you love it when that happens? So let's see if we can peel this off with a minimal amount of effort here anyway. Or not. Let's just get the shit everywhere. Alright, so just give me a few minutes to clean this up here. Alright, so that's basically it. You just throw a little bit of a glob down a couple of the sides, and then you just screw the sucker in. Now the thing with bags and most things is you just don't want to over tighten stuff. Just cinch it down so she's tight, but you don't have to try and go all Hulk smash on the shit. So just give her a good bunge and it should be good. Okay, so basically we've got our bolts back in. Everything is good to go that way. So now, because my cup sits at a bit of an off camber, like you can see, it's not really straight. Basically what that does is it just makes it sit better in the pocket. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark it for the tall spot so that I can see where it's sitting up at the top. So I'll just give it a bit of a rough estimate as far as where the verse. So we're just going to toss this up inside there, hook that air line up into here, and then see if we can start bolting it all back together here. So